3 of the English teachers do co-teaching several periods of the day with the same special education teacher. During that time, they can meet to work on their co-taught lessons. The English department, if we don't co-teach, we end up meeting, or we'll go meet cross-department. So I've been working with Andy Dickinson, because he's doing the AP Spanish and dealing with literature, and so we've collaborated on how can you create meaningful projects in another language, but using the same thinking strategies and the same kind of expectations.
Also mentioned like release time to talk about intervention or looking at benchmarks. What benchmarks do you currently use?
So we give a benchmark at the beginning of the year for the intervention. Deciding for example, the writing week, the title writing. Students do a benchmark at the beginning of the teacher or the team comes up with, or the 7th grade teacher.
It's a formative assessment that the team makes, or is it an actual benchmark?
It's an assessment. Like, for example, read this story and write this. So when I say benchmark, it's designed by the team or designed by the teachers of 7th grade. And then what has been happening is all the 7th grade teachers are doing the assessment and doing the rubric scoring for their particular students on their team. And so if we don't have norming where we know that everybody's calling, this transition, this organization of 2 or a 3 or a 3 or a 4, without that, which I feel like we don't have right now, we get skewed results, and then we don't have any kind of really solid data to base our decisions on. Should the student be going to title writing? Does the student need this kind of support? What kind of support? So we just like to get our data collection a little bit stronger. And that might mean a day's release time to have 2 people, the same 2 people go through the benchmark so that there's...
So do you have a formal intervention process for students to go in and out of support?
We do for reading. The writing has been, it's formal, but I would say that the criteria that we have is not as strong as it should be and not as developed as it should be. I feel like for students to go into writing, a lot of it's been, they have a B- and they had 2s and 3s on their benchmark rubric, but I feel like they would benefit from. And I think we want to look for something a little more substantive in terms of having students get that kind of intervention. We kind of feel like there's some kids that aren't getting it, that need it, and others who maybe are in it that could use something else. So, and I've been working with Lauren on that over the last couple months, and the title reading and writing teachers as well as the intervention teachers at the middle school, and talking about what makes sense in terms of how we can meet the needs of the students that are struggling. We really want to make sure that we catch, and it's in my longer document, but catching the students that are coming in with a deficit in reading in any area. We're really concerned about that. You have to be able to read, and we want to make sure the kids are getting that, and you have to be able to communicate in writing. Super important, so thanks.
You do have a position reduction in your department, correct?
Yes.
Oh, what else?
Position reduction.
Do you think that will affect, will you have any classes lost due to that reduction?
I don't know what's happening. I know we may be restructuring the interventions for reading and writing in the middle school. So in that way, there'll be a restructuring. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I believe what will happen at the high school is that somebody from the middle school will come to the high school, bump one of our high school teachers. That's a hugely unfortunate loss. I don't think anybody's happy about it. She's a tremendous teacher. But again, we're operating in a very difficult time.
So do you think you'll be able to offer the 550 credits for the college again next year?
I hope so. I think that maybe there might, it just depends. I don't know if all 550, it's just going to depend on what students sign up for what we're willing to run and able to run. If the number's a little bit lower, say for the AP senior class, we may not be able to run it next year. That's just going to be a decision based on what we feel we can justify. I hope we can, because I think it's important. But, and it's ultimately not up to me, so good, because I don't want to have to make that decision. But, you know, I'm hoping we can, but.
Can I just get clarity on that again? Are you saying the same number of students sign up for those classes next year? It will not.
I think we may have, I don't remember how many we have in the AP 12
I
now.
don't think it matters. My question is, if you have the same number of students that are enrolled in the classes now and enrolled next year, you can't deliver the
I don't get to make that decision.
That's not my question.
I don't know. I mean, if we have the same number, I just.
If you don't know.
Is it one
If we are you saying if we had, let's say you
English?
said.
Is it one F to
Unless I heard
Yeah.
you wrong, I heard you
Yeah.
say the same number of students. Mr. Shottle asked a question about the classes and the
Right.
offerings next year, and I thought I heard you
We're
say
going
if
to-
we have the same number of students enrolled in those classes next year, we cannot offer them. That's what I heard. If I heard you
All right, we're
correctly.
gonna, you know what, we're
Well,
gonna go back to
no, that's
Mr.
okay.
Shuttle and go
I just want to
around.
because
No, no, I think that-
I
no,
know that
that's
I
fair.
have some clarification
Yeah.
too, we're going to.
I just
go
think, I
back
just
to
don't
the-
know what we're doing in terms of, so let's say, I think we may have 9 or 10 in the English 12 this year, which is an AP class, which is equivalent to 30 to 40 credits, depending on where you land at school. I don't know if next year when we look at numbers and we say, no, just so you know, we're going to get a teacher from the middle school to the high school. So we're gonna have the same number at the high school. The structural change will be at the middle school. And again, I don't know what that will be yet. That's not in my wheelhouse or in my responsibility. I just don't know what will happen next year in terms of what will be offered based on how many students are in a class. Because that would not actually be my decision to make.
I know.
Yeah, yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Do you have
Mr. Shuttle,
a
just-
Go ahead,
I'm all set.
you're set.
Yes, ma'am.
How has the budget freeze this year? Your budget is already very low. It was low last year, it's low this year. And we've been on a budget freeze since the beginning of school. So how has that impacted your budget?
Nobody asks me for anything. I mean, we know, everybody knows. So, I mean, it just means that,
And it's
do
really.
you want the truth? One of my colleagues is getting donations of a book for her class that she really wants to teach.
So the budget freeze really was for the
Yeah.
past 2 years, not just
Yeah,
this year.
yeah, in
So-
a way, yeah.
And then, so the money you mentioned, going on Amazon, is that all coming out of teachers' pockets, all of that money?
Some of it's teachers, oh yeah, well, anything that's like that, the libraries or, yeah, it's teachers' pockets. Or if teachers' friends will say, oh, I have a copy of this, or I'll buy a copy of that for you.
So if we were not a budget freeze next year, you would be ahead of the game with,
Yeah, hopefully. I'm like looking at what I want for next year, and I'm trying to get them now, you know? I mean, I lived on a shoestring for a long time. I was a stay-at-home mom. I like to find a bargain. On the flip side, it would be nice to not have to feel so constrained, but it's just the way it is. I mean,
thank you.
it is.
Okay, well, thank you for that work. It's impressive on this very meager budget. The one position Mr. Shuttle was speaking of was one full-time English teacher equivalent. So I guess, and I'm going to somewhat piggyback at Mr. Shuttle and Mr. Holtzclaw. I've been part of programming, and it has seemed that I guess it's the high school media position has been very important to programming. Maybe you haven't had a lot of supplies, but that it's allowed us to better use the one-to-one technology.
Oh, yeah.
We've received many updates, and I think even our curriculum, I don't remember your report, curriculum and technology update, or often had the work that that person was doing. And I have to say that concerns me as much as the books. The books concern me, it all concerns me. But,
I'm more concerned about losing our support than I am about the.
well, and that's why,
Because, I mean, go to Carol's point. I mean,
Yeah.
A lot of that has helped our instruction in the class.
but in a way, I think what I'm trying to process here is you're losing one full-time English teacher, you're losing half of a curriculum person, and whatever portion goes to you with benchmarking, with training, with team teaching, co-teaching, collaboration, whatever we're calling it, and you would be losing one of the main people with collaboration with technology, I think. Is that
That is correct.
accurate?
I mean, make no mistake, RAM will change.
Yeah.
RAM, it will change. because so much of what supported us as teachers in the classroom, I can speak from my teacher hat, so much of what has supported us as teachers, we may not have. And so, I'm concerned about that, for a lot of reasons. I mean, we'll make do because we have. That's,
Well,
you know.
I think another thing, I'm a copious note taker and write questions to myself, and I wrote down the question, is it possible we don't even know what we're not doing because people aren't going to you because they know there isn't money?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. I mean, I was able to move, I asked Jane about moving money from, we weren't allowed to, we weren't supposed to touch the textbook, so I was able to move a little bit to get, I think I got like 8 copies of Fathers and Sons. I have a class set requested for next year. So we've worked around as much as we can, but it's just the reality of, where we're at.
Okay, so there's potentially significant impact.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
fair.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think, we're all aware of that.
Yeah.
So you haven't been able to spend any of that 5,000 this year?
Believe me, no. I spent everything I could because I had the wind. We knew what was going on at the state. So I spent whatever I could for instructional supplies. So the other thing that happened last year was like, okay, put everything in instructional supplies. Don't put anything in textbooks. And then textbooks were left alone and instructional, that's why everything got slashed. I think where next year I was a little smarter was that I didn't budget as much for the professional services, meaning having the poets come in I only put 600 in there, and I tried to move the other 900 into books and periodicals and things that make the learning relevant and timely for the students, so, and things that were requested by my department.
I will say that the English department at RHAM is very, very strong. Both my girls went on to college, and writing is not a big deal for them. They write a lot in college, in the honors program, and it's never a big deal. I remember being in school and having to write an essay, and it's like, oh, and they just whip them off like 2, 3 a night. I'm really concerned that we're cutting what you've been able to use to kind of battle some of these cuts that have been ongoing. We're losing that person, and we're also going to be losing someone from the technology department. Also, we're going to have one desk-side person for the whole school, and I don't know how that's going to be done. When we talk about not wanting to send kids over to magnet schools, and I think, there's a lot that people don't understand about both sides, but yeah, you have a very strong program, you really do. How is the budget coordinator, the department coordinator going to affect your area? And I did want to ask that too, the art
curriculum?
music. Yeah, the curriculum, yeah.
She's my mentor, so I only get through her 50% of the time. We'll definitely lose opportunities for certain PD that she's helped to support in terms of common sense guidance on how to proceed with any number of programs that we're working on. It will have an impact. I think anytime, the other thing I keep thinking about is that there's these reductions in administration. When the state of Connecticut put the teacher evaluation system in place, you need administrators to go in and evaluate. They're already running ragged trying to get all of these evaluations in. Now we're reducing, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. But I think that, Pat walked into an incredibly difficult situation. I don't know what the best solutions are. I am concerned about maintaining, I think honestly what makes RHAM terrific is that people are willing to roll up their sleeves and go beyond. I think the teachers that are dedicated, if people start to feel that weight of, well, hey, I can go anywhere and make more money, so why am I staying, I can be miserable anyway. You know, I want us to maintain not only the incredible work that we do with our students, but the sense of a staff that's valued and that feels supported, and it's just so hard to know at this point, but there's so many changes happening. And whatever's going to tumble out, I'm not sure how that'll happen, but that's ultimately for you guys to decide.
Thank you.
Mr. Holzclaw?
You mentioned your budget roughly around $5,000. Would that be inclusive of any textbooks that you were planning to buy or repairing?
Zero textbooks, so.
No, that's my question. If you did have textbooks in your budget, would it appear in that 5,000 or would it appear in another line?
It would be there.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're.
But we don't need textbooks. I mean, at this point, textbooks are really expensive, and we bought some a few years ago to support writing instruction through Common Core in the middle school, and they've been sharing that class set, and so far nobody's asked me for more. They were expensive. I think they were $800 something for one class set. A lot of what we're looking for is 25 copies of, To Kill a Mockingbird, to replace the ones that are falling apart, and 50 copies.
And that's where my question is headed. I want to know how much of your $5,000 budget would include any cost to replace destroyed, ruined, or books that are just not working anymore and need to be replaced.
Yeah, probably, I don't know if I actually put them in here this year, because I wanted to make sure I could get, I think I might have put one thing in that we're trying to replace, but I think I was trying to get the new title, so I don't even know if I put, I don't know if I put any of those in here. But part of what eats up a portion of the budget is the periodicals. Some years we're able to have the media center get some of this, but again, I can't count on that, so.
I understand, and I don't want you to, we can find out the answer later.
Yeah.
My concern at this point is there are books
Oh,
that
like-
the district prepared that requested.
So like fathers and sons, they're falling apart.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I guess my point is that there are books that you're using in classrooms that you put in your budget that have been rejected or
Right.
not approved, and you have to continue to use these books
Right.
in district, or can't use them.
Right.
That's my question. So is that being turned down, or are you
I mean,
prioritizing?
I'm
other ways?
prioritizing. I mean, Pat's given us, tremendous leeway in tell us what you need, but the number's there, and it's the same thing that happened last year with Bob. Bob said, okay, this is what you requested, this is what you had last year, now we're down to this number. It's like, oh my gosh, and when I came in last year, I didn't even know what was going to be reduced yet, because I had just gotten the reduction, and there's all of my items that I want to order with the big number, but there's like a minus and then the new number.
Right.
So,
No, I understand. I'm just looking at it from, I don't want to belabor it, just I'm looking at it from a point of needs versus wants, right?
Right.
You need what you need in your classroom based
Right.
on what you know now. There are things that you want that you can order and aim for and target and plan for down the road or whatever, or in the next budget. But I just want to make sure that, because there's a 20% reduction in textbooks for next year proposed in the current budget. It's about a $23,000 reduction year over year from 18 to 19. So I guess Pat, is there just maybe for another meeting down the road, can we get a breakdown of what represents the textbook budget? How much of that's allocated to replacing destroyed texts? How much of that is responding to whatever else is there? That's all.
I mean, to be fair, we really just adjusted our thinking to don't ask for anything, trying to, I mean, truly, we're in that mindset.
Understood, and this
Yeah,
board
yeah.
has done a tremendous job, and the community has to say, to give that message. I mean, I hate to say that, but we're all
Right.
aware of the
We're-
situation.
yeah.
But we're also aware that you do have textbooks that were approved to put, or
Replacement copies.
literature,
of
whatever,
books.
documents that you, and materials that you're using for your classroom instruction, that this board has approved, the curriculum is approved. And I just want to make sure that if they're destroyed and falling apart after 20 years or whatever, or 10 years or even less, that we're not just leaving you there with half a class of whatever those materials are. So, thank you.
Mrs. Wilson?
I also want to commend you for all your efforts. My daughter is also a tremendous writer, having gone through, the middle school and the high school, to the point where one time I took one of her papers and put it in a plagiarism detection. I was like, she can't possibly be writing at this level. Right. Keep right, please. Sorry. So can I just clarify, when you buy literally, fiction books, are they classified as textbooks or textbooks defined as
They're
this big,
classified as-
heavy, Houghton Mifflin,
Right.
McGraw-Hill,
Exactly. Yeah,
that
a
type of
textbook would be something like a, hardcover anthology, or a softcover anthology, a little brown reader maybe. What I'm really talking about is things that fall under an instructional supply budget, so, 20 copies of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and 45 copies of something that comes from middle school, and Scholastic magazine, those kinds of things. That all falls under instructional supplies, which is why we don't have anything on our textbook line item. We put that all under instructional supplies. I mean, could it technically, I think the first year that I went into the department coordinator position, I said, where do I put these trade paperbacks? And he said, you can order out of, all right, you can order out of text, you can order instructional supplies. I'm like, okay. But now we've been instructed to put, as of last year, in instructional supplies. So that's what I'm trying to do.
And when you mentioned, and I think I caught the name, Mary Jean, is that the tech person that you work with?
Jerry.
Jerry.
Yeah,
Jerry
Jerry
Jean?
yeah, so she's
Jerry.
the media
Jerry.
center
That's her last
specialist in the high school, and she also does a lot of the tech support. So I just didn't know what, we're hoping to have continuous tech support.
And so she works with you kind of in an instructional technology?
She does all kinds of, she works with
comes in-
students, she works with us in instruction in terms of, so you can see Pear Deck is up there. She's taught us how to use Pear Deck, how to use Socrative, different technological platforms you can use for different formative assessments to capture where the students are at any given time. She also runs our, and helps the students with the digital portfolio program, which is the seniors do a portfolio that encompasses all of their work for grades K-12, and she's just, I don't think anybody would graduate without her actually, because she's such an incredible support, so.
I think those kinds of positions very often are a balance of tech skills and change management, because they're doing some persuasive, so it's kind of hard to replace with other kinds of tech people who might not have the people skills to go in and do those sorts of interventions and support people and know to put the technology first. And so,
I mean, it's definitely been, that's why something we're hoping to be able to continue, because it's been such an impact on the kind of instruction we can do. So whatever's in place, we hope that, that will support our instruction.
and you want somebody who puts the teaching first and the technology.
Yeah, I mean, that's
supports
really,
it.
that's key. I mean, that's why I think that's our strength as a high school. Students are first, holy students are first. What can we do to make sure that they're learning? Are they learning? They're not learning? The student's not learning? What can we do? I actually just had a conversation, we were talking about students that have concussions and ways that we can use the technology to create some support for them beyond, here's, Old Man to See on a YouTube or on a Kindle, but, can we now speak the chapter from history that they can't read it because they're not supposed to be reading. Well, we can just go and speak it, and they'll have an MP3 of it. We were just talking about that the other day, because we do have a high number of students that have concussions. So these kind of things that really support student learning. So we just want to make sure that somewhere that this is supported.
And the research coming back more and more in terms of even comparing like fully online, face-to-face, and then sort of in between hybrid where you do a lot of screencasting.
Right, yeah.
You're finding some measurable gains in learning in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the face-on-face is key, and that's mostly what we do in the classroom. And that's why I'm really happy, because when I first started to hear about all this technology, I mean, I will admit, I was like, oh no, no computer. That was me, right? And then the more we were sort of, over the last, couple years between Lauren and Jerry's PD, sort of leading us to understand how we can use it, understand how it promotes. And as soon as people started to say, hey, this is having a positive impact on student learning, then people could get on board. There's some people sitting here that use it and to great effect in the classroom. We still have terrific face-to-face learning, but to be able to use the technology to support instruction is it's really great. And I'm in classes with people from all over Connecticut, and I know that we're ahead of the game in a lot of ways. And to your credit, to the board's credit for approving the one-to-one, it's made a difference for students.
And that's my final question, because I'm new. Is the one-to-one the Chromebook?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
You're all throwing one-to-one around, and I'm like, let's go.
It's okay.
So we'll come back around with you if that's okay, because I know people have more questions, but we'll ask the students, Caitlin and the other young man. Go ahead. The light, I can't see it, it's Daniel. I apologize. I apologize. Go ahead, Caitlin.
I would just like to comment that I found that the English curriculum has been very beneficial not only for my English classes, but in all subject areas. For example, writing lab reports in my science classes. After going through some of the more advanced English classes in the past year, I found that those types of reports in other classes have become so much easier. So I definitely think the English program is very beneficial in all areas, not just to those certain English classes, but has a total effect.
Thank you.
Yeah, sort of going off what she said, my English skills, I would say, have improved a lot at RHAM, so there's that.
Thank you. Okay, additional questions. We'll just go around quickly. Mr. Trima, Mrs. Shea, anybody?
I just have one additional
Yes.
question. If the books that is there a way for you to get reimbursed for the books that you're purchasing? I know Amazon isn't always an approved vendor on the little things, like you can get a book for $3.77, we go here, then,
So to the credit of the bookkeeping office,
Yeah.
if we buy a book out of our own money, we just buy it, we just eat it. But we order almost everything from Amazon, and to the credit of the bookkeeping office, I ordered about 30 copies of an old translation of Oedipus and Antigone, and it's not in print, and we had to go through this vendor for it was like 1 penny and $3.99 for shipping. So for
Yeah.
$4, I got all these used copies, and used copies are fine, because it's the same words, and as long as the pages are in there. So they, in the bookkeeping office, they have an Amazon account, and they went through and ordered me my copies at, $3 to $4, but they had to go through every separate vendor, and then I had to keep track of like what vendor was coming in, but we got the books. So yeah,
you can do that.
yes,
Good.
and it's, honestly, having Amazon has saved us. I've actually ordered copies of Shakespeare books to replace, so I'll order 15, 15, 15, and they'll send me 30 sometimes. I'm like, woo! So yeah, it's a good day, but I'm a nerd. So, copies of Shakespeare make me very excited.
I have a question. I have a question. I'm trying to understand have a little better understanding of the position that was in middle school that's being eliminated, and that's impact. But I thought that on the high school end you were going to stay on par, but that was being taken away from the middle school. And I thought I recalled it had to do with reduction, declining enrollment. Is that true? Perhaps.
It has to do with the changing of the way that we're providing writing intervention in the middle school by doing that through a literacy intervention rather than one for reading and one for writing. And by doing that, it's eliminating that writing position, which eliminates the middle school position. The high school stays exactly the same.
Same numbers.
Okay, yeah.
They are not changing.
Same numbers. We don't have that, we haven't really felt the big reduction in population at the high school.
Yeah, that wave is going to slowly work its way
Yeah.
out over the next several years.
And English also has, 4 credits that they have to take in order to graduate. So graduation requirements also impact often which departments are going to realize some of the reductions sooner than others.
All right, that's all.
Mrs. Raffel, okay.
But didn't you say that if that middle school teacher gets positions eliminated, she's going to bump somebody?
She'll come to high school, yeah, she'll bump the least.
So it is going to impact.
It's going to impact the dynamics, but we'll have a teacher. We'll have somebody.
No.
Anytime you change, there's some kind of impact, but there'll be the same number of teachers at the high school. There'll be one less at the middle school.
One other thing I wanted to bring up about the English program is that I know in the senior year, in the junior and senior year, you help them write their college essays, and that is a phenomenal resource. These kids come out with excellent.
We do it and depending on the class, we do it as part of the personal writing.
Right.
We give them their eye back because they've been had it drawn out of them for years, and that also for some of the classes is part of them becoming reflective as well and starting to write reflective pieces. to help them build metacognition and understanding how they learn and grow. So it's actually building on even bigger skills. But that personal narrative, which some of the students do choose to do as their college essay, it offers them some extra support just by default, and it's wonderful because they're freaking out. I mean, they are freaking out.
Yeah.
September and October, they are freaking out.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like, okay, everything's gonna be okay. I'll read this. And the writing lab, and I put that up there, has been just, I mean, it is swamped in the opening of the year because the students are just, can you just look at this? They're just looking for some affirmation and some guidance. And so it's been a wonderful resource for the students.
Have you ever thought of doing like a Kickstarter or something else? Because I know teachers are always gonna spend their own money on stuff, whether it's supplies or things that they can't get, and even in the greatest budget years. But
Right.
I mean, to let the community, I think the community is very generous, and I know they
Yes.
want to help. But is there any way to get the word out to people?
So I was joking last year about a GoFundMe page. If there's something that I say, oh, you know, we really want to do this, I would totally do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I said, one of my colleagues put out on Facebook, hey guys, I want to teach such and such a book. Does anybody have a copy I can have for my class? Did anybody? And then people just started donating, like, I'll give you one, and you know.
I mean, the libraries are constantly having book sales. We had one in this room.
Right.
yesterday.
The Marlboro librarian is wonderful. So she said, send me an email with what you, so I can just shoot her. I have her email address up on mine. And no, it's great. I mean, and that's the whole thing. It's the words are, if they're in a book, the words are the same. We just try to find them at the most, I don't know, thrifty way we can.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Dr. Watt, how granular does your instructional supplies budget get as far as identifying how much might be allocated for replacement of these non-text books, I guess non-fiction?
Can you repeat the beginning of the question? I'm sorry.
I was directing my question, I know this room is awful for that, and I'm the worst one, my hearing is really bad, so I apologize. We talked about books not getting repaired, some are in disrepair or whatever, and I just automatically assumed that it was a textbook account, right? So, and then right after that, we went into, it's part of instructional supplies. So I'm asking, how granular does your budget get for the line for instructional supplies?
I can tell you where any books are for any of those things.
Within instructional supplies, okay.
Absolutely.
Can we do that for the next?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not a problem.
We have them broken down by.
Okay, thank you very much.
And now, next up will be mathematics.
Yay.
Come on! I do appreciate this mirror reflection. A long time ago, you noticed that? She mentioned a couple of ratios, she mentioned decimals. You remember that? It's about an hour and a half ago. Okay. So some highlights. I feel like we have a very strong math department as well. I'm very proud of it. We have fully implemented Common Core at this point, and we're trying to do our best to teach deep understanding mathematics as well as to do well in assessments, of course, which should go hand in hand. Students learn lots of good math, and they do well in the assessment. We have incorporated some smarter balance interim assessments to give the kids in the middle schools practice on smarter balance type problems. And we have gone through SAT sample problems and incorporated those into every class. Now the collaborative process using some of our professional development time. So the kids have a chance to see some SAT type problems before the test. Every year in every subject there are those types of problems. You know the score we've done very well in the SAT assessment. We have incorporated software for enrichment for those students. For example, students skipping 7th grade math and going directly to algebra in 7th grade, they do ALEKS over the summer. And students who need intervention will do ALEKS as well. It's an artificial intelligence program where they do a pre-assessment and that gives them a customized program to learn the requisite skills. We have a lot of interventions available. We have math lab in the middle school. We have math lab in the high school every period. We have math for success in the high school. Unfortunately, due to some scheduling issues, we've had to kind of cut back our title math program in the middle school, but we ramp that back up. And students are taking advantage of these services. the one-on-one initiative, the Chromebooks, we've gotten more use of those this year, since they're guaranteed, instead of having the laptop cards. The students can just look up the Chromebooks and do a formative assessment or do a visualization on GeoGebra. We've had some extracurricular activities, including STEM Night at Connecticut Science Center. We did that last year. There's a schedule conflict this year. That's a night where 8th grade students go and have an immersive experience at the Science Center. Multiplayer options is where young women in the middle school go to UConn and learn about careers in mathematics and engineering. The financial reality fairs where students in our essentials classes go to either the state capitol or NCC or wherever it is, and they do a full day activity learning about budgeting and learning about choices that they need to make financially, which is a wonderful program. The AP scores in our full AP program, which really something to be proud of. We have lots of students taking AP classes. We're increasing every year, and most of our students earn a 4 or 5. I think it's upwards of 70% or more will earn a 4 or 5 on the AP exams. Those classes in 3, 4, 5 is into the 90%. And we just added this year AP Computer Science Principles class, where students get, it's a new course. Last school year, the first year was offered. This year is the first year we're offering it, and it gives students a chance to learn about programming and all sorts of computer skills. And we've gotten, one of the main purposes of that program is to get young women into computer technology. So we've actually have some young women and men enrolled in the program, and I hear it's a great class. Who's teaching it? Oh, it's me. Yeah. So we'll try that. For our budget objectives, we want to continue making use of our one-on-one community initiative. That's really important to keep that up to date. We want to continue to support our students on the major assessments. We want to purchase more graphic calculators. We didn't purchase any last year. We want to continue increasing our inventory of graphic calculators to give all students a chance to use them, including our essentials level students and our level 2 students who some of them don't have them. We want to continue to provide these extracurricular experiences and provide, of course, necessary supplies, whatever textbooks we need for replacement. There's no new textbook program in the budget this year. We're using the textbooks we have. We want to continue to support everyone's abilities. Questions?
Your last comment, continue to support students of all abilities. Many times, as a board member over the last several years, some of us have heard from parents and the community, and I think I just heard something tonight too about the middle school program where, you have students who are kind of in the middle. Okay, they're not the high achievers getting the good grades. How do you support those students?
Well, as far as which students?
Students who are struggling.
We have math lab for the students. We have levels of classes. We have students could take, say in 7th grade, they could take the honors course. They could take the regular Math 7 class. For the students who are up to the regular Math 7 class and the specialized students take adapted math courses.
Well, let's say you have students struggling and, they're not going to take an honors class. Would they? Or would they?
Well, some students struggle in the honors class, some students struggle in regular.
Okay, you say they're up there and then they're struggling and they shift down.
Yeah. People struggle on whatever level they're in. We place students as appropriate as we can and then support them where they are.
In terms of in the classroom?
In the classroom, there's math lab.
And
teachers stay after and help students.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, thank you.
And so are students tracked in math then? So how do they get, like, if they wanted to move out of,
If students do really well, they can move up. If they're struggling, they can move down. So no, it's not fixed. There are different levels in every grade, every year. And there is movement.
there's a retirement in the math department, is that at the high school or the middle school?
At the high school.
Well, and that's not being replaced?
Correct.
And was that
Well,
impact or?
based on the numbers, it appears that the students can be absorbed in other classes. There'll be less flexibility since there won't be as many sections of courses, but we have some courses that are running relatively small numbers, plus there's a reduction next year in number of students. So we're hoping that we can cover everything next year.
So
It's
students
kinda
will
hard
get, students will get what they need. is what
Yeah, it's
they-
kind of hard to say because we don't know exactly what students are going to request and where students will
Right.
be placed, because that process is ongoing right now.
Yeah.
But the hope is that we'll be able to absorb into our current teaching staff without that one FTE return.
You mentioned textbooks. Are your textbooks, what date are those textbooks current?
They vary. They vary from early 2000s to 2014.
2000s? Would that be Common Core? Or no?
Yes, I mean, it's like pre-calculus is pretty much above Common Core.
Okay, so it's not your level books that you need to.
Correct.
Okay.
So in our middle school Common Core, those are newer textbooks. Our textbooks for algebra are newer, geometry is newer.
Do you need new textbooks or?
Last year we requested pre-calculus textbooks. We would like to have gotten them, but we were requested to look at some online open source options. So we're piloting a unit or two of an open source option this year. So we have not requested those textbooks right now. We're still evaluating. So we're using our current textbook, which is a strong textbook, and this online open source from Rice University, and we're kind of mixing both of them together. No questions.
No question.
So, how do you have an idea now how the open source is going, or are you?
The open source textbooks are going pretty well, I think. They don't have the examples are lower rigor, some of them, and there's less of them. So we need to supplement with examples. This is a couple units we've been working on. So overall, it looks like the textbook has some pretty good explanations. It's readable as much as someone would read a math textbook. But we definitely need to supplement with examples, other problems.
So the book needed supplements, but is the book stronger than the open source where the book covers, or is that?
Our textbook from early 2000s
Yeah,
is a stronger textbook,
yeah,
but the cost to replace the textbook is around $21,000.
Yeah.
Which we put in the budget last year and was stricken from the budget.
so I guess, okay, so we have that challenge, and there's a retirement, and some of the classes are projected to be of a good, robust size
Yes.
for next year, 24, 25 students. I don't know if this is accurate, but one of the things that I heard, and it was actually a compliment to you, is that you during the, computer science principles answer math questions when students go in, so that's a help, or?
I do.
Okay, well, I heard that, and that it's very helpful. And that's great that happens. I mean, will those kinds of things be able to be available, so as someone said, all of our kids are supported, whichever level they are. You spoke about various levels from really heavy intervention to a little more accelerated, and we want all of our kids to grow in mathematics, to develop math talent, and to have that kind of support. Will that, given that we don't have the $21,000 textbooks, we have the whatever we have, and there'll be one less math person, will we be able to maintain and improve our math program as we desire to do?
My concern is number of students in classes. That's always my concern.
Yeah.
We have lots of classes with 24, 25, 26 people. That does impact, I believe it does impact student learning.
Yeah.
I think all our teachers go above and beyond as far as extra help and staying after school and
Yeah.
spending prep time with students.
I think so too. One of the presenters called herself I don't know, a geek or something, and I am too. Like, so I read a book about the challenge, the global achievement gap, and years ago, and saw this speaker, and the idea is not the opportunity gap from, say, those economically disadvantaged to those who are affluent in America, but rather how kids in China and the US and things are doing. So in the gentleman who wrote the book, I developed a relationship with him. He's in Boston, just texting or whatever. But he talked to college kids and students. So when I'm driving kids, I ask them, because they're bright enough kids, if they think it matters, especially in math, the number of students in a class. And I know that's not, research-based, but it's anecdotal, and, perhaps it could be, and they really feel as though it does. I've heard strong praise of the math teachers, of the program, but I think also, and maybe not, but maybe more so even for girls, that they don't feel as embarrassed to ask things when there are reasonable class sizes. So, 24 and 25 is, and I did say manage, by the way. I rewatched the tape, which was crazy, but anyway. But I think it's hard to optimally bring forward math talent. So, it's nothing about the teachers. I just am a little concerned about the numbers. I think you have an amazing department, and thank you for your leadership.
Early in your presentation, you said there was a cut, and I didn't hear what that was. I didn't catch that. Was the cut that you were talking about that was affecting your program?
You did?
Yeah, you said there was a cut on something. No.
Watch the tape.
Title Math.
I'm sorry?
Title Math right now, because of some personnel issues at the middle school, Title Math, the Title Math teacher is teaching 7th grade math.
Okay.
So the hope is that we would have more Title Math support. Now we have 2 teachers teaching 1 section of Title Math during the intervention period. So that restricts their intervention time and puts them as the Title Math teacher versus having more flexibility with Title Math more periods of the day.
That's an intervention?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would be their 2nd math class,
Okay.
and it gives them support in their primary math class, whether it be 7th grade math or 8th grade math.
Okay. I noticed that you teach an AP Computer Science Principles class. How does that relate to the programming class that's being done at the Tech Ed department?
Well, the programming class strictly deals with programming. It says Computer Science Principles deals with programming as well as several other principles, including like cybersecurity, the history of computing, social impact of computing. There are other elements in addition to programming. So in the class, we focus on mobile apps, socially useful mobile apps, and we develop apps and the skills needed in programs to develop them. If students had taken programming already, they'd be more advanced and actually could create more complex apps. So there is that ability for differentiation in the class, which is nice.
So there's no crossover in terms of one teacher helping another, working together on any
Not really.
curriculum?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
So thank you for your presentation, because it helped me confirm the origin of the name of our family goldfish named Desmos.
Wonderful fish. I was sad that Desmos passed away.
Yeah, Desmos passed
I got the
away right
message,
before
yeah.
my daughter left for
I
college.
saw the video.
Yes, the famous Desmos. I just wanted to go back real quick. I recall last year, it was a little bit different for me in the past, managing the meetings rather than engaging in the meetings. So, but I know there was a strong push by the board last year to encourage at all levels to look at open source in replacing textbooks or whatever, right? And there was some value to that. I remember there was some discussion. I know at one point you thought that there was a workable solution, and I applaud you for that in your department as well, trying to make that work. My question now is, we're 1 year into it, right? Pretty much.
Well, we're piloting 2 units. It's open source, so it's free. There's no cost to it. The other book is great, although they're more and more disrepair, so we're using it and supplementing. We're okay with the units. Those units are workable. but we haven't fully switched over.
Okay, all right. So I guess my question is, are you satisfied with where we are in this area? Or do we need to be thinking differently long-term? Do we need to be looking at something on an open source more or less, or how?
Well,
how do we-
there are, I mean, it's pretty limited as far as open source for math. You have
Right.
pre-calculus, the open source book we're looking at is a college textbook.
Okay,
So that's adequate rigor for a pre-calc.
Right.
They are trying to pilot some algebra textbooks, Rice University, OpenStax.
not you, you're not.
No,
Okay.
no. So at this point, I'm comfortable with our current Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry textbooks, which are relatively new.
Right.
So I don't see the need to start branching out in open source with those.
How does that meet like the state guidelines in terms of, what the state's saying that they?
Our curriculum wouldn't change. Our curriculum would be the same as it is now. It's just you'd be accessing the curriculum through a different textbook.
Let's go around it and then we'll come back around. Sorry.
Thank you.
Just a comment that I think you'll see growth in open sources. That's a growing movement, both where you're at, but also in higher ed, and significant. Some of the states are starting to back it and say you have to do this. So I think you'll see more choices. But I guess the question I have for you is, you're a lot more regulated than like a university is in terms of choices, or are you? When you go out, is the reason seems like I'm hearing there's not a lot of choices on these books, is it because they have to have some stamp of approval process,
No.
on a federal level? No, they're
No,
just
they need
not
to be,
there yet.
They need to be at adequate rigor and adequately in depth for our students in their learning. We looked at a bunch of open source textbooks for pre-calculus, for example, last year. A lot of them were not detailed enough, too rigorous, too high in mathematics, or had other issues. We found one of all of them that would be okay, and that's what we're piloting.
Finding ways to work that.
Yes.
Supplement it.
Yes.
And just the other comment that I would have is, you talk about the flexibility in terms of the math levels and support, and you're also saying you're really looking to increase, the participation of women in computer science and STEM, to sort of, one of the things that I observe is people getting locked out of STEM at a very young age, either through 6th grade tests, or when they get to 7th and 8th grade, if they're not put in an honors math, they're cut out of the science programs that are that way, and to maybe it's not, isn't a budget question, but to say it's an observation that sort of one hand is not supporting the other. That if you want to support women in STEM, maybe there needs to be an ability to say, okay, 7th grade didn't work out, but let's take a second look at this in terms of.
Well, we do a lot of flexibility in mathematics, so I guess I can't speak to others. If you're in 7th grade math, they have a path to get to 7th grade, to 8th grade honors to algebra.
But they're in tandem with the science programs, and so it just obviously maybe it's a path thing more than anything else. It's just sort of whoever does the program.
I think that is an excellent question, point, and goal. And I think that should absolutely be on our programming agenda. I couldn't agree more. We need to increase everybody's ability and talent. And as several people said to me after the last meeting, you need those math and science and all of that thinking for life now, and we need to develop everyone. So I think, that as a board, I think we've had the strategic plan and programming and things, and I think that is a goal, but I think we need to do better with our actions.
Yeah, I think we just slam a lot of doors shut at a very young age and then say, why don't we have STEM people? Well, there's a paper trail there.
No, I do too. I think, thank you for pointing that out.
But I applaud the trying to encourage women in programming. I teach a computer science principles survey course, and it's always like, the students are always kind of in awe of how all of early computing was women, really, including the very first program. If she couldn't run the program, it would. Anyway, that's it for me, thank you.
Well, math is by no means my forte, but I generally find that the class size is already pretty big. I can't speak for all the classes, but my classes have been relatively large. And I find that when you're struggling with math, it doesn't take a lot of interaction with the teacher to make a big difference. But even in a slightly larger class, it makes it that much harder to get that time. So I think it's sort of something to consider.
Thank you for sharing that. I know there's some more questions, so does anybody have more questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, I'm glad that you said that, Daniel, about class size, because I'm very concerned about that as well, especially in the area of math, where, you know, you have to, sometimes you just need direct support. There's no other way around it. And if you have a huge class of 24, 26, and how long is your period, 40-something?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm not debating that you might be a great teacher or whatever, but I just wonder logistically how you could support that many students that well. You know, it's not a slight to your teaching ability. It's, I'm saying I think that our kids deserve support, and it's not fair to you to try to do all of that. So that's a big concern for me. I also want to thank you, Judy, for making sure that it ends up on our agenda. I have heard the same things about STEM, and to the point where your 5th grade scores on, you know, the iReady assessment support whether or not you will be in STEM or inquiry. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it's very concerning to me that, you know, 10-year-olds would be considered, you know, so young and shut out of, I have no idea what it is or if that's true, but I really do agree. I need to know more about that. I think that's a big concern.
There are multiple assessments that go into the decision to place in STEM.
I'm sure. I'm just telling you it's out there.
Mm-hmm.
And that maybe that's a communication piece. Maybe that's a place of improvement for us to work on as well, you know, with the staff to talk about how do students move around in their classes. So please don't construe that as a slight. It's just, that's what I've heard as well. And I have two students who are at Hebron and on their way up, and I have no idea what we're getting into. So I'll look to you for support, you know.
Just wait.
Yeah, I'm excited about the homework. And I also heard you say, maybe, yes, I do mean that facetiously. But the title math, I heard that, now when I hear title, I think of monies that are associated specifically with title. So usually that's a grant, Title I, and that money is specific for students who are in intervention services. So I want to be sure that I heard correctly that a title person or a person who's being paid for under title funding is teaching a general class? Is that accurate?
I don't know where paid come from. I can't answer that question.
I can clarify more title information later.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. The class sizes, do we have an estimate on what the class sizes will be compared to this year?
Some of the classes will be, we have classes now that are 26, 27
Yeah,
students.
yeah.
I mean, some that don't.
Yeah.
So that, and we won't go higher than that. Some of the classes where maybe they were 18, maybe in the 20s, things like that.
Yeah.
So we won't go higher than 27.
You can't fit them in a classroom.
Okay.
Is there,
Can't you take more
I'm
desks?
sorry.
We could do different
But they
levels.
can't
I mean, I have pretty good practice skills.
It's double decker.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, do you have more?
No, I'm done.
Do you, is there a way or a path that you see that we can have class sizes more near whatever, 18 or 20 for math and 24, 26 or?
Well, that really depends on what people sign up for. It's hard to say at this point. Based on estimates, based on the percentage increase to next year, Tom Mueller developed a spreadsheet that has estimates of class sizes, but we don't know yet. So they vary. I mean, this year they vary from 9 or 10 students up to 27.
Yeah. And as I said, I really appreciate Daniel's comment because I You know, and at first, and I always say, I'm not on board, I promise you, this isn't weird, I want to know to these kids, but I have heard that from so many students, and